我别打，我跟人录像了。
So these protests have been kicked off, I think, initially by a big fire that kicked off in an apartment building in Ürümqi, which is in the Xinjiang region, which is in the northwest of China. And that led to officially a count of 10 people's deaths in Xinjiang. There was footage that emerged from that which showed that firefighters may have found it difficult to get to the people inside the apartment building because of zero COVID policies and because of the strict lockdowns in Xinjiang. And so that led to anger amongst the Ürümqi population, which then spread to other cities around China. We've since seen protests break out in Shanghai, in Beijing, in Nanjing, all over China, really. And people have been calling for similar things. They've been calling for an end to COVID policy, which seems to be their main gripe at the moment, their main demand, as well as more outrageous calls, which we haven't heard since 1989 back in Tiananmen Square. Some people are calling for the end to dictatorship. Some people are calling for President Xi Jinping himself to step down. This is really, incredible to see in an atmosphere like this. Zero COVID has been President Xi Jinping's strategy since the beginning. That's been going on for almost 3 years now. And I think at the beginning of the COVID outbreak, that seemed to be a relatively positive thing. Xi Jinping was using this as a propaganda tool to show that China was dealing more effectively with COVID than other countries. As time has gone on and as the Chinese population has seen other parts of the world start to get back to normality, they've seen in the World Cup, for example, people without their face masks on gathering in large places all together. That dissatisfaction, that anger, that frustration has only grown as people's lives have been incredibly locked down. And you've also got to remember that, these lockdowns are not like we've seen in the US and other parts of the world where people are just told to stay at home. These lockdowns are very, very strict. Often whole apartment blocks are locked down. Recently we saw people shut inside the Shanghai Disneyland but not able to get out. People are not able to go and get their groceries. It's extremely, extremely strict. And I think as time has gone on, that's really, led people, especially young people, to deal with a lot of depression, to deal with a lot of economic issues. Currently, I think 20% of the population of the youth in China are unemployed. It's led to a lot of difficulties in mainland China. So far, we haven't seen that the Chinese government has committed to any relaxation of their zero COVID policies. In fact, just recently there was a press conference held where it seemed to be that Xi Jinping was doubling down on these policies. It's a very difficult situation, I think, that the Chinese government is in because, they have really hailed their zero COVID policies as a win for the Chinese Communist Party. There's bragging rights for the Chinese government to show how much better they're dealing with the situation than other countries at the moment. And as time goes on, I think it's very difficult for them to get around that because, recently China has seen the COVID rates increase. And because of the low vaccination rates, especially amongst older people in China, if they were suddenly to lift those COVID measures, that would mean that there could potentially be a very, very large outbreak of COVID, and that would lead to potentially a lot of fatalities. But I think it's important not to get carried away. Whilst it is shocking that, these calls for President Xi Jinping to step down have even taken place in such an authoritarian country like China, I do think that the main message that people are trying to get across is that they're very frustrated with the current COVID policies.
I'm Michael Learmonth, Editor-in-Chief of Vice News. Too often, traditional news outlets shy away from the real stories and experiences of those living through global conflicts. Not Vice News. Our reporters are on the ground, fearlessly covering the human stories that shape our world. You and millions of others can continue to read, watch, and listen to Vice News for free. But we hope you'll consider making a one-time or ongoing contribution of any size at vice.com/contribute. Every contribution, no matter how big or small, helps support the journalism Vice News brings to you every day. Thank you.